Thank you, Karen, and thank you to all the other new friends that I've met this morning. And I want to really thank all the wonderful spirit and divine living that you embody here at the center, because as a Baha'i, I feel very close to you, and the looking for the divine in all the religions and all the peoples around the world. So very close to what we believe. I'd like to, I have about 20 minutes to fill you in on a few things that I understand, and facts and figures and so forth that you may or may not know. So if you already know it, I apologize in advance. If you don't, then good. Just a few facts. A Baha'i is a follower of Baha'u'llah. And if you see, and it was on the screen there, and some people say with a U sound, but as a Baha'i, it's Baha'u'llah. Just so you know, if in case you're talking to somebody and you want to know how to pronounce it correctly, that's just it. So the question is, well, when did the Baha'i Faith start, and where did it start? It started on a very specific time and date. 2 hours and 11 minutes after sunset on May 23rd, 1844. And the reason it is so specific is it's in the Baha'i writings that was the time of the first disciple, the first follower came into being of the Baha'i Faith. So 1840s, you may or may not know that there was a religious fervor throughout America and Europe, especially England, and in the Middle East, that they were expecting the return of the promised one. Some groups, like the Millerites, they had gotten all their ascension robes, and they were ready to go on top of the mountain and ascend into heaven, And German Templars had moved to Israel, Haifa, Israel, actually, and they built homes, and they awaited the return of the promised one. Because according to the calculations they had made, that's where it was going to happen, when it was going to happen. Well, in Iran, what is now known as Iran, there was the same kind of religious fervor, the expectation. And this is where the Baha'i Faith started. And just like before in previous religions, the religious clergy was excited at first, but then when they found out that Baha'u'llah came not just to continue Islam, but he came with a whole new message, and he wasn't their expectation that they were going to remain in power, or even greater power, and all their dogma and all their rules were going to continue. When that didn't happen, they weren't happy. So just like 2,000 years ago, the Jewish religious leaders were expecting the Messiah, the return, and when Jesus Christ didn't fulfill their expectations the way they wanted him to, then they didn't believe in him. So, and this is the same in every religion. When the promised one or the divine prophet or messenger comes, he never comes in the way that the religious leaders expect. And so they oppose him every time. So the same thing happened in the Baha'i Faith. And this is a map of then Persia and the Ottoman Empire, which is now Iran, Iraq, and then Turkey, and so forth. Now this talks about the travels of Baha'u'llah, but it really is not the travels of Baha'u'llah. It's the exiles of Baha'u'llah, because the clergy, and the government too turned against Baha'u'llah and the followers of the Baha'i Faith, and they basically tried to wipe them off the face of the earth. And they killed tens of thousands of the early Baha'is. So anyway, what happened was Baha'u'llah was born in Tehran, and they threw him into a pit for several months with chains on him that were so heavy that they had to have special forks to hold him up. And they even had names for these two chains they would alternate on him. Through divine intervention, he was released from that prison after 4 months in 1852, but they exiled him out of Persia into Baghdad, which was under control of the Ottoman Empire, the Sultan. So they figured, well, he'll be there because it's a different culture, you have different language even, Arabic versus Persian. He said, everybody will forget about this new religion. Well, it didn't happen. He started to attract the people of that area, and so much so that the religious leaders said, we've got to get rid of him, And so they petitioned the Sultan of Turkey to take him away as far away as possible. And so they exiled him to what is now Istanbul, Constantinople, where it was. And then after being there for 2 years and attracting people, they said, well, we need to exile him farther. So they sent him to Adrianople, which I can't reach. And then after a few years, finally they said, we need to send him into the worst place in the world where nobody will listen to him and the religion. And so they exiled him to the prison city of Akka, Israel, which is right next to Haifa, Israel, on the coast there. And this was where they put the worst political and religious criminals in the Ottoman Empire, and they had banished him for solitary confinement for life. And so he was there from 1868 until he passed away in 1892. So why? Now the question is, well, why did he get persecuted? And this is in Akka. This was the prison where he was imprisoned, and right in that area right there. So Baha'is go there as part of their pilgrimage, and they visit the prison where he was held for 2 years, 2 months, and 5 days, I think. Anyway, what was it? Sorry, I'm having trouble with this. Let's go to the next slide. Just as you readily accept, the divine teachings were in all the religions. And Baha'u'llah made it very clear that it's the same divine spirit that appears in all these great spiritual leaders, spiritual messengers from the divine. And that Baha'u'llah was just the most recent. And the Bab was his forerunner, but I don't have time to go into all that. But Baha'u'llah said that he is the messenger of God for today, and that there will be others in the future. Whenever God feels that another divine teacher is needed, then more will come. More divine teachers will come. And now these are the major religions, but also we know that, say the Native American, they had their own spiritual teachers too. But these are the major ones. Anyway, so the oneness of God, the oneness of religion, revealed to man in a progressive way, just like teachers of a school. They all have similar, the golden rule. That's present in all the religions, and so the only difference is that mankind changes, mankind develops. God is unknowable essence that is eternal, but it's us. It's the human beings that evolve over time. Is it not working? Louder. Okay. This one here? Hello. Okay, we'll do that.
Do you want Karen's microphone?
I'm sorry?
Do you want Karen's microphone that you can walk around in?
Oh, that's a good idea.
There is more than one way.
I'll try to be like Karen. She's really good at this. So anyway, this was the major teaching that now the whole idea is to unite the world, to unite all the religions, unite all the nations, all the races, all the peoples, that it's time, it's technologically possible to actually do that. You couldn't unite the world 100 years ago or 500 years ago, but you can today. And so that all the teachings, the Baha'i teachings, are geared towards a world civilization. Now, we mentioned that the clergy was upset because their power was taken away. And in the Baha'i Faith, there are no clergy. Baha'u'llah says basically God took away power from two classes, the clergy and kings. And if you look at the kings, there's not much of kingship anymore, because Baha'u'llah, he wrote to all the kings while he was a prisoner. He revealed tablets to the main kings of the world at that time, the Shah of Persia, the Sultan of Turkey, the Pope, the Tsar of Russia, Napoleon III, and he said, and Queen Victoria. They all rejected his message except for Queen Victoria. She said, "If this be of God, then it will endure." So she didn't reject it, she didn't really accept it. But anyway, hers was the only kingdom that lasted. Okay, all the rest of them lost their power to a great degree, or all of it. And interestingly, her granddaughter, Queen Maria of Romania, became a Baha'i. She was the first leader that became a Baha'i in the world. So anyway, besides, how am I doing? I still got a little bit more time? Okay. Baha'u'llah, let's go to the next slide. Baha'u'llah mentioned not only prayers and meditations and teachings for the individual and the spiritual development of our souls, but he also gave teachings for the advancement of mankind as a whole. And I won't go into too detail, but my favorite subjects are the soul and life after death and all that. But he says that the soul of man, he says, what is our purpose here? And our purpose is to develop divine qualities while we're here on earth. Okay, then what? Well, then he teaches that this is only the first, actually the second. The womb of our mother was the first world we were in, okay? And then there's this world, 70, 80, 90 years that we're here, and we're supposed to be developing divine qualities. Love, compassion, justice, mercy, kindness, all these things. Well, why? Well, because when we leave this place, we go to another world, a spiritual world that we can't see. He says the world beyond is as different from this world as this world is as different from ourselves while we were in the womb of our mother. That's how different it is. And we really can't understand that because it's a totally different situation. He also said, "Know thou of a truth that the worlds of God are countless in their number and infinite in their range. None can reckon or comprehend them except God, the all-knowing, the all-wise. So there's not just one world that we leave. There's an infinite number of worlds as we progressed towards God. We never reach God. We never can be God, but we can, acquire eternally perfections and divine qualities. So we know it's there, but we really don't understand it. We really don't even understand the human soul. He said that if all the peoples of the world got together and tried to understand what the soul is, they won't. It's a divine emanation from God. And we believe that our existence starts at conception. The soul is somehow related and connected to the body at conception. And then we shed this body after 70, 80, 90 years, and we continue. And we go on to other realms where we have heavenly bodies, so to speak. But the soul is always there, eternal and working through us. Okay, so what are some of the other teachings besides, the first one, independent investigation of truth and reality. You see, most of the world, especially in the past, followed whatever culture, family that they were born into. If their family was Islamic, they were Islamic. They didn't question that. Okay, well, he says, now is the time for people to think for themselves and not blindly follow what has happened in the past. And so that's a very key point. And it was very difficult for people to understand that, especially in Iran, where it started, and the clergy had absolute control over the people, and most of the people were illiterate. So whatever the leaders said, they believed. And as you have adopted, you focus on the spiritual unity and the spiritual principles that exist in the world's religions, and you're not bogged down by the dogma that is created by people, which has caused all the divisions in the world among religion. It wasn't the prophet, founder, the divine messenger that created the problem. It was mankind afterwards, the leaders that said, okay, it means this, and no, it means this, and then they developed all these laws and so forth. Well, we actually have, for the first time, and because mankind is mature enough, we have a Baha'i administration, a Baha'i laws and so forth, that after Baha'u'llah left, he didn't leave us without any structure or anything. And we do have, we don't have clergy, but we do have Baha'i administration. In fact, we just elected the local spiritual assembly of the Baha'is of Prescott a few days ago. Okay, and what do they do? I mean, they say, oh, and how do you elect them? Well, it's basically there's no campaigning, there's no electioneering, there's no vote for me. You get together as a community, and through secret ballot and after prayer, you vote for 9 people who you feel are most qualified, with qualities such as devotion, and they have a well-trained mind, mature experience, and these kind of inner qualities, spiritual qualities. And then whoever gets the 9 most votes, they're it. So they're it. And the same thing happens on the national level, the National Spiritual Assembly. And on the international level, we'll get to the Universal House of Justice is being elected in the next few days in Haifa, Israel, where all the national spiritual assemblies of the world, about 185 or so, meet, and they go through the same process and vote for the 9 members who they feel are best qualified to lead the whole Baha'i world. Anyway, other principles that made the clergy crazy were the equality of men and women, or women and men, I should say. This was unheard of in Persia, in Iran. They were just totally covered from head to toe, And one of the early believers, her name was Tahireh. She was one of the first women suffragettes, you could say. In 1848, she actually removed her veil and in front of, other members of the new faith, and they were shocked. Even they were shocked. Okay, and then she was killed, executed a few years later, and she said, "You can kill me anytime you want, but you cannot stop the emancipation of women." And interesting, when she took off her veil in this meeting of the Baha'is, 1848 was the same month, the same year that the first gathering of women in the United States for the emancipation of women in the United States took place in Seneca, New York. So it was the same time. I should also remember there was a coincidence where the Baha'i Faith began in 1844, May 23rd. The next day, Samuel Morse typed out his first telegraph message, and it was, "What hath God wrought?" So interesting coincidence. So basically, he said that men and women are like birds of the same wing. I mean, the wings of the same bird. That if one is not as strong as the other, the bird can't fly properly. So this is, we still don't understand gender and we don't understand still. In the future, we will understand better how this relationship and how this differences and the similarities, how that works. It's not like women have to be like men, to achieve, what they need to achieve in this life. It's not that. They're complementary. So we don't even understand that really yet, but we're getting, go ahead.
I hate to interrupt, but someone I hadn't mentioned, it struck me how that woman that you described, she was so quickly killed, but the founder of the faith, they took so much effort to exile and imprison rather than just execute. And I don't know if you have any ideas about it. It's so strange.
Why did it happen that way?
Why wouldn't they just kill him, or why would they imprison her?
They tried to, but if it was meant to be that he was, there are prophecies about the promised one going from here to here to here to here, and that's what he did. So until God's plan is done, it's going to happen the way God wants it. So and he was able to write hundreds, thousands of tablets for the future of the world, and not only just to the kings, but to everyone. So we have a tremendous amount of prayers and exhortations and so forth, and we're going to have to wind down. So there are, harmony of science and religion. If religion doesn't take into consideration science, it becomes superstition. If science evolves without religious teachings and spiritual teachings, it becomes materialism. And we can see that throughout the world right now. So, and basically establishing a world government. The Baha'u'llah said, gave the teachings for how the world should function. That the national sovereignty in many cases or in a few cases, especially like armaments, has to forego that so that we can have a world civilization based on peaceful principles and so forth. So anyway, there's no way I can get through all that I wanted to, but we have a very positive outlook on the future, even though the near future may be dark, because mankind learns the hard way, it seems. But anyway, I really appreciate your love and acceptance, and thank you again.
You just have a seat right down here.